Welcome to episode 94 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast. It is a crazy day, I think, for everybody right now, but we're having our episode.
Yay.
Cheer up.
I'm cheerful. You said the wrong thing and pissed me off.
I don't think there was a right thing to say, so.
No, probably not.
The thing to say was nothing at that point, but you're not good at that at all. So
Why would I say nothing? That didn't. I've been married long enough. I can say whatever I want at this point.
I'm glad you think that.
I've put in the time. I've earned it.
I don't think it works that way.
100%. Oh, anyways, episode 94. We're festive now. Look behind me.
Oh,
There's stockings on the
yeah.
wall.
I have cute snake print vinyl to put names on them, but I haven't made it that far on my list.
I got them hung up all of about 6 minutes ago. So now we have festive stockings in here.
Yay.
Because it is December. Speaking of December, our giveaway this month, I need to post it. I'll post it tonight. But our giveaway is going to be a block of Reptichip, the breeder block of Reptichip, donated by our buddy JT over at Reptichip. So I'm excited about that.
That's exciting.
I'll put up a post.
Once again, something you cannot win.
That's true. That is true. But I'll put up a post for that. What needs to be done? I'll figure that out in the next 3 hours or so, and I'll get that up there.
There you
go. Because I've been not thinking straight. I've been waiting, trying to get these last 2 weeks out of the way just so we can get to Christmas break and be done with school for 2 weeks. Just got to get there. So, how's everybody doing?
I'm here.
yeah, long day today at work.
It's just busy. There's like 40 million things that need to be done, and then on top of that, it's just life, work.
Yeah, this is getting into my watching Lost in Space time.
Being a parent.
She's old enough. She can raise herself now.
Now that the PVC's here, it's nonstop all
The
day,
PVC's here.
Absolutely.
There's no coming home taking naps. There's no watching TV. There's no anything. It's just
work.
I'm getting there at 7 and work until 7 or 8 every day.
I'm gonna need my kid to quit opening and closing the door. What the hell is she doing up there? I don't know if anybody else can hear this, but I can definitely hear it on our end.
We need to just spray her door.
Or just lock her up during the podcast.
No.
So now you're the king. You got 2 warehouses full of PVC.
I do.
That's right. And if you are looking for a high quality PVC rack, look no further than Lone Star Reptile Rack.
100%.
They offer a variety of sizes for all types of snakes, geckos, rats, and more. And you can even order something custom. Shipping is available, or you can plan to pick up at a Herps Reptile show near you. Visit lsreptilerack.com.
Fucking knife fell out.
Also,
to reach out to
we're
Lone
gonna
Star
make some
Reptile Racks
fucking
and
great radio
place
tonight.
your order today.
No,
Buy racks, people. He has plastic.
it's good plastic too. Okay, so this is gonna sound bad because I didn't know how the quality of the plastic was gonna be because it wasn't sight unseen, but it was kind of sight unseen. You'd seen samples, but like a little square is not a 4x8 sheet of plastic.
No, they sent me some like 2x2 samples.
But it's nice.
It's really nice.
It's masked on one side. For those that don't know, it's got a film that you peel off. That way you keep from scratching that one side. So like if you go to a show and you're like, man, that looks kind of dull on the outside. Yeah, it's probably got a plastic film on the outside so you don't scratch that bitch up.
Yeah, we're going to be leaving the masking on it from now on.
Yeah.
And it also has a scratch resistant coating.
Which is shiny.
It's pretty nice.
I like it.
And it's very dense. It's 0.9 density. Most of what you see is 0.7. So it's heavier.
Yes,
it's about 62 pounds per sheet. We weighed a sheet where the stuff I used before was about 53 pounds per sheet. So
I definitely would have thought it weighed more than that. It feels so heavy when we lift one of those sheets and move them.
Yeah. So I like it a lot. And I had a guy come buy 10 sheets from me last week and tell me he's going to build, you were there? No,
I wasn't there. That was the day before I got there.
That he was going to be building some for himself. Next thing I know, I see him posting a 10 tub 28 quart with a Inkbird thermostat in it for $500. And I'm like doing the math and I'm like, bro, you got like $475 in that thing. And you put an Inkbird. That's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
You're putting a non-proportional thermostat on heat tape and selling it. So now you're taking the liability when that Inkbird fails for either killing snakes or burning a house down.
The Inkbird was cheap.
So then people were asking him where he got his PVC and he wouldn't tell them. So I commented and said, from me, and he will not be getting any more. So, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're in the Houston area and you want sheets of PVC and you think you can make your own rack, Robert will gladly sell you sheets of PVC to make your own rack. And then when you fuck it up, he'll sell you a rack later on. Because that's what's going to happen. Because I think people underestimate what it takes to build one of those things.
Yeah. And I mean, people don't even, if you're not an experienced carpenter, just doing the layout, figuring out where to put things on a sheet to cut them, you're going to waste so much material. That's $130 a sheet.
Because it's not that it's a hard concept to build. It's a fucking bookshelf with really small shelves. That's super easy. But I built racks early on, and you fuck shit up. Like you put it all together and you're great, and you go to put the tub in and it doesn't fit, or you go to put the tub in and now there's an inch gap between where it should be. Like I had one rack that my dad made that it was out of wood and it looked really nice. That's all he would tell me was it looked really nice.
That thing was a bitch to move.
But I could only use like 4 of the shelves out of like 8 because the shit didn't fit in there.
Well, if you don't get everything perfectly square.
Yeah.
God, it was heavy.
You try to make, an off shape, and then you're trying to put a perfect rectangle in it.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. I mean, I've always been a firm believer in paying people to do things that I'm not good at.
Yes.
Like I'll pay.
That's where I'm at now. I don't own a single handmade rack in there.
But I pay somebody to mow my yard. I don't got time for that shit. I don't want to do it. I grew up on 40 acres and had to mow that shit all the time. I don't want to mow anymore.
James doesn't know what it's like. I don't think he's ever mowed the yard.
That is not true. I've definitely mowed the yard.
Since we've been together?
Well, no, because you haven't had to take me to the hospital, have you?
No.
No, then I haven't done it.
I was about to say, we haven't been.
I did ride the riding lawnmower a little bit.
You rode the riding lawnmower for 1 lap around the yard.
Yeah.
Well, no, when Rachel and I first got together, we lived with her parents for a couple of years. It was a good opportunity to save some money. And they live on like 2 acres, and I mowed that and kept it all weed eated. And after working construction all day, sometimes it was nice because it was my escape to get on the mower and just people would try to talk to me and I'm like, can't hear you. Sorry. Mower's on.
Not going to lie. A riding lawnmower is like hands down the best
especially a zero
invention
turn.
ever.
Especially a zero turn. They're amazing.
Air conditioning.
But
Everyone
then
always says air conditioning is the best invention ever. I don't care what anybody says.
But then when you get off and you have to do the
edging,
the weed eating, that's when life sucks.
I hate weed eating because your hands always vibrate like for like 30 minutes after I'm
now
done.
I will say I don't ever weed eat anything. At the old house, I would make James do that part, and he would take like 2 Benadryl and then go out and weed eat and then come inside, take a shower, and pass out.
Yeah, I would wear like full on a buff over my face just so I didn't breathe anything in.
Yeah, it's his allergies.
I'm not overreacting. I really am like super.
It's pretty bad. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
So James really said you got to build a rack upside down with the tubs. Yes, but I've also seen that fuck up and the shells get too tight. Like that's still there's a trick to doing that right. The first time I did it, I left the lids on. I was like, oh, I'll leave the lids on. That'll do it. That's way too much of a gap. Way too much of a gap. Found that out after I put it together.
I'm actually going to be building a couple of racks for Maria that the lids stay on the tubs. It's for small colubrids.
Damn colubrids. That's why I like your new little colubrid rack that you have.
Yeah. She actually saw that one this weekend and liked it.
So there's that. What?
Nothing.
Is Chris watching?
Huh?
Is Chris watching?
Oh yeah.
Fuck Chris.
Why do you immediately assume that it's Chris that has me laughing and smiling like this?
Because it's Chris Eaton. I'm sure he's saying something stupid right now.
It's not stupid at all.
No, it's not.
Disagree.
He told me I'm at a 9 and he needs me at a 3.
Good luck with that. Oh, but our buddies, they're actually in here. Wiregrass Exotics, Dallas and Amanda over in Ozark, Alabama. If you're in that direction, go visit them for all your feeder needs and reptile needs, and you can check out their hots and everything else. I mean, it's an awesome little reptile store in Ozark. It's wedged between Troy, Alabama, and Dothan, Alabama. So it's where I went to high school and where I went to college. And then there's Ozark, which is a stoplight and Wiregrass Exotics.
Not much.
And a Walmart. So go by and see.
Is that a big Walmart or
no? It's
a small town Walmart?
I think it may even still be an old Walmart.
Yeah.
I'm not sure they actually built them a new one. I can't remember.
I don't know.
They may have done it by now. It's been
In
a long
Ozark?
time. Yeah. For a long time.
There's a distribution center somewhere.
Yeah, but that's in
Brunswick?
Doesn't sound. Does that sound right? Does that sound right?
Brundage.
Brundage. It's where the golf course is that we we saw the giant squirrels. They have those giant fox squirrels that like will pick up your golf ball and run off with.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
But
I've been out there squirrel hunting before in that area.
they're massive squirrel, the big old black squirrel. They're huge.
Mhm.
First time I saw one, I was like, that can't be a squirrel. It's like a cat from
Hmm.
a distance. And then also Herb's Reptile shows, which the last Herb's Reptile show is coming up this weekend in Slidell, Louisiana. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, almost. I got that other guy Leroy coming to help tomorrow.
Leroy.
Did you meet him?
Jenkins?
Yeah, you met him last week.
Leroy Jenkins?
No, that guy that was there working last week.
See, it's funny. That's where you go with Leroy.
Yeah.
And in my mind, I go Leroy Jethro Gibbs from NCIS.
You still got my fried chicken.
They're coming. He's coming tomorrow to help Lucas get the last few finished. And unfortunately, my FlexWatt clips are not coming in
What are those for?
for attaching the heat tape to the power cord. So we're having to do it the old way where you punch the hole and use I always keep the backups, but we couldn't find the hole punch today. So I had to go, actually I had Rachel, when she got back from Louisiana, go to Walmart and buy us a hole punch because I don't know where it went. It's been a while since I've used one of those.
See, that's the problem. You now are in the weird situation where you are not at a PVC shortage, which is where a lot of people are at. You're at a shortage of every fucking thing else that comes with making a rack.
Well,
no one thinks about.
My supplier for heat tape, not saying who, emailed me Friday at like 8:00 while we were loading up PM, and said our container just showed up unexpectedly. We're very certain that there's heat tape in it. We'll get back with you Monday, which was awesome because that means I didn't worry about it all weekend. And sure enough, they got several thousand feet of each.
Sweet.
4 and 3. So I ordered several hundred feet of each a couple days ago, and they got it today. I ordered it yesterday, got it today.
Sweet.
So,
but then like things like screws, that's another thing. Like
screws are not short; they're just
expensive.
Fucking expensive. I mean, they've doubled in price.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I just ordered 5,000 more today, and they've now doubled in price.
Jeez.
What else?
Everyone out there needs.
There's no 1/4 inch. I can't find any 1/4 inch.
Yes, your backs on yourself for the 1/2 inch.
Yep, I'm making the backside a 1/2 inch.
Yes, if you get a rack right now from
Built
Robert,
like a brick shit house.
that is not going anywhere. It is hurricane proof.
Yeah,
I went to shake one of those the other day and it did not move.
We built a 10 tub 70 today and put that.
Fuck that.
Fuck, you could turn that over and get under it in a tornado, man.
That is solid.
Yeah, and with that PVC weighing more, holy
yeah.
shit, that thing's heavy.
Yeah, you definitely buy the casters. If anybody gets a big one, buy the casters.
It has casters on it. Yeah, she ordered it with casters.
But if you're buying a rack or a cage from anybody in the next however long, expect price increases. And don't expect that to be like, oh, it's only a price increase for a couple months. If they tell you it is, they're fucking lying to you.
Yeah, we went up 17% last week. Is what I had to go up just to maintain.
Make what you were making.
Well, not even really. I actually cut my material costs in the last 60 days have gone up about 40%. I only raised prices 17%. So I'm making less money, taking in more money, but making less money.
Yeah. Right
now. I don't know how long that's going to sustain. I didn't want to hit everybody with a fucking 25% price increase.
Look, I'm going to be honest. It's not, unless they are living under a rock.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just stuff like this. I went grocery shopping the other day.
Yep.
And even the groceries are more expensive.
Yeah,
gallon of milk's almost $5 now.
Yeah, but see, the problem is the people see that and they still. We talk about this every week.
I mean, we do.
They still bitch about it though, like as if the person selling it has a choice. Like Robert doesn't have he does have a choice. He could definitely sell at the same price and then go bankrupt.
Yeah, just call it a business.
Yeah, I mean, he could definitely go bankrupt and have no money for food. So that is an option.
I like food.
Go back to Herbs. There's the Oklahoma City show, January 15th and 16th. Not going to that. That's
I will not be there either.
That's in a whole different country.
Ever again?
Yeah, and I'm not dealing with those flies. My God, I've personally lost money at that show every time. I've done it 3 times, and I just can't. It's just there's another vendor who sells what I sell that lives there. Yeah,
so that's their market, and then
the Longview, Texas show, January 22nd, 23rd.
Which I may or may not be at.
Yeah, I may or may not. There's grilled cheese.
I may have to be back in Louisiana for something else that week.
Oh yeah.
Oh, is that
the thing?
Yep.
Thing.
I am on standby.
Hey, I have a story that's not that thing, but somewhat like that thing to talk about later.
Yeah, I'm on standby, and I don't know if it's going to be the 21st, the 20th. Like, I don't know.
I haven't told you what happened at the shop last week either.
Somewhere around there.
What happened in the shop last?
When we were getting ready to unload the container on Thursday, I needed a pallet jack. Turns out the pallet jack didn't work for what I needed it for, but the guy across from us that I always say looks grumpy.
Yeah.
Super nice guy, by the way.
Just
Super nice. He just looks like an asshole. He has resting asshole face.
Sometimes those are the best people.
Yeah. Well, he was waiting for us. We had a forklift in his way and he couldn't get out. And he rolled his window down. I went over to say, hey, we'll let you out. Give me just a minute. Oh, yeah, no problem, man. And I'm like, shit, he's kind of nice. So we sat there and bullshitted for a few minutes and talking about the state of the economy and the country and whatever. He's a business owner too. So then he comes back and I said, hey, you don't have to have a pallet jack we can borrow. Yeah, sure. Come in here and get it. I just got a brand new one. It's a 6,000-pound pallet jack. So I go in there to get it. And I said, oh, you got an air conditioned shop. That's nice. You got the whole, he's like, well, it's an air conditioning company. So yeah, he's like, but actually this is just the ambient temperature in here because I had spray foam put in.
Oh, damn.
He's like, because my air conditioner's not working because a bullet went through it 2 nights ago.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, oh, so he's like, yeah, apparently. So, around the backside of there's that little narrow parking lot. Apparently 2 cars went up there to do a drug deal. And the one on the outside tried to rob the one on the inside, and they started shooting them with the AK-47.
Fuck.
The bullet went through the wall, through his air conditioning. It went all the way through the air conditioning unit, hit the door on it, and it dented it out. So the bullet was in there. Another one went through the wall, through his toolbox, hit the ceiling, and then was laying on a lowboy trailer right there. Well, his son is a forensics guy for Pasadena Police Department and lives with that wooden fence, lives right there. That house with the dogs always bark at us. That's his son. He said, so my son was over here before because he lives close by too, and he gets a ring notification, ring neighborhood notifications when things go down.
Is there a ring notification for when a bullet goes through your shop?
It's the neighborhood thing. So when people start talking about
it, one they had a sensor, a bullet.
Yeah, right. He said, so I got over there and sure enough, there's a bullet there. Nobody got killed. 2 guys got shot, but nobody got killed.
How bad would be at shooting if you're that close with an AK and you still can't kill them?
I don't know. Well, when people are shooting back at you, it's
yeah. You figured he sprayed and prayed.
Yep. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Your shop is not in the best neighborhood.
No.
But by definition of being in Pasadena, it's not in the best neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah. Pasadena has some nice parts and
they just hide them very well.
The neighborhood behind me is pretty nice, but the neighborhood across on the other side of Preston is not.
Yeah. Longview, like I said, Longview, then Conroe, my birthday weekend, January 29th, 30th is Conroe. Then Corpus Christi down to the beach, February 26th, 27th. And then New Orleans, there's only one show in February.
Yep.
And New Orleans in March 5th and 6th. And then Bryan College Station, March 12th and 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Were you going to say something?
We won't be in New Orleans.
Why not?
Because that's Joe's birthday weekend and we have other plans.
See, kids ruin everything. We'll find then. Anyways. So that is the schedule.
We have several runs next year where we have like
one show,
4 shows in a row, and then nothing for a month.
It's definitely got to be. It's good and bad.
Don't bother me.
As long as you plan your money properly, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see where it could be rough if you don't have a good show and then you go a stretch with no shows for a month
or you don't have like 5 good shows and then you go a stretch of no. Yeah.
I
mean, it can be rough, sure. But I mean, I'm starting to have to rely on shows less and less.
Yeah, now that you got PVC, you can fulfill all the orders.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and bring our guest in. You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to ask her last name. No, don't get me wrong. I know how to spell her last name, but I know that I'm gonna butcher it as soon as I pronounce it. She's staring at me right now, waiting for me to mess up
and laughing at you.
Told myself earlier, ask her last name for. I didn't do it. Oh well. All right. So let me find my mouse. Here we go.
Just say Audrey.
Yeah, but that's.
Let her say it.
Our guest is. I'm gonna try it. Our guest is Audrey Koepp.
Nope.
God damn it.
Nope.
That's
how everybody says it, though.
How do you say it?
Koepp.
Koepp? There is an O in there. You can't get rid of that O. Who has a silent O in their name?
I could have really fooled you because that's actually the Americanized spelling of it, too. So
there's probably some little symbols that go above letters. And
yep.
A V Precisely. Or an X that's not in there. It's supposed to be there.
Precisely.
But is Audrey from Urban Amphibia? I got it right. Yes.
Indeed.
I want to make sure I got that right. What?
I've been turning it off so that my typing's not too loud.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad that you were able to make it tonight.
Yeah, Audrey
Me too.
had an exciting last few hours.
We've all, I was about to say, it's not just the three of us that have had a very crazy afternoon.
Yeah.
Audrey has also had a very
Yeah.
crazy afternoon.
Yeah, unfortunately lost my dogs. They decided to go gallivanting around for a little bit, but I got them back. So
I'm
yay.
so glad.
Yeah, I got a message at like 4:30, like, "Hey, I may not be able to be on the show because I lost
Yeah.
my dogs." I was like, "Well, go find your dogs." I
Yeah.
was like, that's cool.
Fortunately, a good Samaritan picked them up, and I made a next door post. So, yay, next door. It worked.
That's awesome.
So, Audrey, so tell us a little bit about yourself and Urban Amphibia. I mean, it's a safe
Sure.
assumption that it's about amphibians.
Not at all. I just like to throw people for a loop.
Really, she does crocodilians.
Well, first off, thanks for having me on here. The only other podcasts I've done have all been amphibian specific ones. So
Weird people.
spreading my wings and branching out a little bit. So thank you for that.
Thanks for coming on.
So I've been doing it on the side for many years, close to a decade now. And I just launched this business, legit business, full time back in July. And the biggest reason I did that was I had actually gotten reached out by Steve Sotelo, the marketing manager with Exoterra.
Yeah.
And he had asked me if I'd be interested in doing a sponsorship collab kind of deal with their new Frogs and Company products. And so they wound up sending me a palette of each of their new Frogs and Company tanks and their new substratum and their new Exoterra skylight and all that good stuff.
That had to be a fun day and a fun palette.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And so they wanted me to do a couple of builds on their tanks because that's what I specialize in, is mainly amphibian builds. I like to build everything. I love building tanks, but dart frogs are definitely my favorite tanks to build. So that was really cool. But I've been in the dart frog game a lot more heavily for probably the past 5 years or so. I'm kind of a lurker, behind the scenes kind of person. And I never really did much social media or anything like that. And it was all word of mouth and local customers. And, I travel all over Texas and people would just reach out to me, just friend of a friend, that kind of thing. And I just started having so many froglets and people loved what I had and were super happy with the frogs they're getting from me. So they're like, hey, do this, we'll support you. And so I have some really, really great clients, long-term customers that have become great friends of mine. So it's been quite the journey, but it's been a cool one so far.
When you also have a fairly young but YouTube channel.
Yeah. So I was always getting asked stuff. My entire background is all animal related. That's pretty much all I've ever done. And so I started out, fortunately, when I was 15, small town. I'm from Seguin, Texas. And we knew the mixed animal practice vet there. And he let me go in at 15 and basically started training me himself on veterinary medicine, on everything from parrots to dogs and cats to large animals. So that was definitely a neat experience getting started that young. And I worked there until I graduated high school, immediately went to A&M and wound up graduating with a degree in wildlife and fishery science and minor in wildlife ecology and conservation. I always had a love for amphibians and birds more than anything. And that was definitely my main focus in college as far as biodiversity related courses. And I always knew I wanted to work with one or the other. And here I am today, 10 years after graduating, and I work with both. So.
Oh no. Did she freeze or did we freeze?
Yep.
It could have been either one. Well, hopefully it'll come back.
Can y'all
I
hear
want to
me?
ask her a bunch of frog questions. Also, we're going to talk about fruit flies as much as I love fruit flies. Oh, she's back. There we go.
Did I lose y'all or did y'all lose me?
Who knows?
I don't know.
I don't know.
But on the audio, it'll sound like we lost you and it works out great for us. It's all your
Okay.
fault. We're good.
Okay. Well, they can blame me. It's fine.
So I guess we'll get into frogs because I don't know frogs that much. I know what a frog is. And I know some species. And I know that I hate the things that I have to feed the frogs that I'd want, which was our question this week, which we'll get to. But how many different species of frogs do you currently have?
About 3 dozen.
Jesus Christ, it's a loud house. Do they
Yes,
just all start going at some point?
Between dart frogs and tree frogs. Yeah, I get it day and night. But I love
that's
it.
awesome.
It's super cathartic to me. And so I don't think I'd be able to sleep without it.
I love that. We have a Brazilian horned frog in our classroom. His name is Slimer, and he waits until the kids leave in the afternoon to start croaking. And I wish I haven't been able to get a video of it or anything, so they don't believe me, but the kids don't at least. But
He's a cool frog.
they think he is the fun. His colors, I need to get an updated picture. His colors are changing.
He's still bright green.
Like he's bright green, but he's got a bunch of like tans that are starting to come
Coming
in.
out. Yep.
He's a chunky little thing.
That's how they're shaped.
I know, but it's just it makes me laugh when I see him. I'm like, you were smaller than a quarter when I got you.
Yeah, you keep feeding them, they grow.
I know. That's the only time he ever moves in the cage. So the kids are like, oh, he's in the same spot he was yesterday. But then on feeding day, when he goes everywhere, they just flip. They love it.
We have two species of amphibians. We have your fat ass frog and your fat ass newts.
Yep. I have Spanish
Ooh.
rib newts.
Nice. Very cool. I'm trying to work with some more newts, but I'm not going to lie. They're more on the back burner for me these days.
I really want an axolotl, and I've wanted one for years, like before axolotls became crazy popular thanks to Minecraft.
Yep.
But I've always been concerned with water, anything that lives in the water.
And keeping them cool enough.
Exactly. And someone suggested the rib newts. They're like, if you can keep rib newts alive, then you can totally do an axolotl. And because they're a lot hardier, and I've enjoyed them. They're fun.
Yeah.
Now that they're starting to
the
metamorphosize,
weird
and
thing
they're
was we bought that little like magnetic ledge, little floating
Mhm.
ledge, just as like some decoration in the tiny container we were keeping them in.
because you can't really put any rocks or anything within them because they'll try to eat them.
Because I've watched them eat. Those things are special.
Yeah,
I don't know how they survive in the wild,
I really don't.
but they come out
That's
and they
just
lay.
amphibians, period.
Well, these guys will come out and they'll bask on top of that little thing and lay there. And I was like, I totally didn't expect that to happen, which is kind of cool. Because when we got them, they still had gills and they were still in the first stage there. And then they started to lose the gills. The kid's like, oh no, they're sick. I was like, no, give it a time. That's how they're supposed to look.
Well, and we could tell them apart because one was missing a foot. But then it regrew the foot.
Yep.
And so now I have no clue which is which.
Yeah, we have no idea. We don't know if the same one lays on top of the log every day or if they just change spots. Like,
Yeah.
I have no clue.
I don't know. I can't tell.
Tripping you up.
Weird ass amphibian. That's another thing. Is just like water quality is a huge issue.
Yep. And that's just amphibians across the board too. So
we're big on buying water and aging water. Like I've had a fish tank, so we tend to age a lot of water when it goes there for the fish tank and stuff too.
yeah.
But
Indeed.
I want to do dart frogs, but I'm not gonna do dart frogs, and that gets me into our question that we posted. You had him post. What do you think is the most difficult aspect of keeping dart frogs? I knew what I was gonna put, and that is everyone else's answer.
That's 100% what I was going to put also.
Yeah.
So I'll read through some of the answers. It's going to be very repetitive because the same reason that everyone doesn't have dart frogs is this one reason. Fruit fly. Ashley Howdy said fruit flies, not having colonies crash. Drew Scholl said fruit flies. Travis Wyman said getting them to stick to the board after I drunkenly throw them across the room. Wrong kind of dart.
That's a new one. Haven't heard that one yet.
That's because Travis is a wise ass.
Which is why you are friends.
That's true. James Bergoli said fruit flies. Brendan Frisella said explaining why they aren't poisonous while in the same breath explaining why we still can't touch them.
I love that answer. That is my life at every single show. A million
These are not
times a
poisonous
day.
in captivity. How many times do you have to say that over? They're only poisonous because of what they eat in the wild.
Yep.
Over and over again. Bill Bradley said fruit flies. Emily Amonette said, I don't have any, but I'm scared to have them because I don't want to accidentally kill them. She has a red-eyed tree frog instead. Joe Challenger said keeping up with tadpoles. I'm not planning that far ahead. Paul Beinfield said the fucking flies. So yeah, mine one is gonna be the flies. I had a horrible situation in college where I had to grow them for genetics and they kept fucking dying.
And then they got moved to my dorm room so that they would survive for the project.
Because the air in my 1970 something dorm apparently was so bad that every time you'd open it, mold would grow, no matter what. So, but if I went to her dorm and opened them and did them over there, I was good.
Yeah. Joy.
Darren Watson said fruit flies are the worst part of keeping dart frogs, but I think keeping the plants alive is just as challenging. Yeah, I guess that's one thing that dart frog people have over reptile people is y'all have been growing plants way longer than we have.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I say we. I don't grow a fucking plant at all, but the whole vivarium with bioactive, that's been the way to keep dart frogs from forever ago. We all act like bioactive is new. Yeah, bioactive is not new. It's just new to everything else in the hobby.
Exactly. So we're basically the trailblazers.
Yeah, but you still have fruit flies.
See, it's so funny. It's between that and humidity. Maintaining humidity that I always get from people that are afraid to get into darts. Let me tell y'all, I still heavily work with tree frogs and I work with salamanders and I have some random oddball geckos and stuff. So I have to deal with crickets and roaches and all that stuff. I will take fruit flies over crickets any day of the week. I can't stand culturing crickets.
Oh, see, that's your first problem. You're culturing crickets. I would just buy a whole new box of them. I've never tried to grow my own cricket. Only thing I've ever tried to grow my own of are mealworms at one point and dubia roaches. Everything else, I said, fuck it, I'm gonna buy it. I'm not doing. But the fruit flies, a lot of people talk about like they're worried about them getting out and having to deal with that. That's not my issue. My issue is just keeping the damn things alive.
So they do have certain parameters that they need. And it kind of varies, you ask 10 different people, they'll give you 10 different answers because it is dependent on like your ambient humidity and the ambient temperature inside of your house. And so the big issue, common question I always get is like, oh, I don't want flying insects coming out at me. So most people, the two big types of fruit flies are going to be the Drosophila Melanogaster and then Humidity.
Melanogaster is what I had to grow in college and I hate them.
And so most people stick with Melanogaster because they are truly genetically modified to be wingless. Whereas Humidity do still have wings. They're larger, so they're more comparable to, say, like a pinhead cricket. But they're genetically where their little wing muscles are so weak that they can't fly. But the issue you run into is they can mutate. So if you keep them and they get above 80 degrees, then they can
oh wow.
Yeah, they can actually regenerate the property to fly again. And so that's why a lot of people don't like Humidity in the dart frog community because they're kind of more of a pain in that regard. And their life cycle is also longer. So they have the slowest production rate out of all of the fruit flies. But
I'm slowly thinking I may get dart frogs.
Dude, I've been saying for years, no dart frogs. No dart frogs, no fruit flies. We cannot have anything that eats fruit flies.
Yeah, but I really want dart frogs.
No butts. Millie, you're not coming.
The frogs have butts. Little frog butts.
They do.
See, y'all know me, so you don't have to culture the flies. You can just pick them up from me.
She's right down the road. We can just go get them from her down the road. She's like 30 minutes away. So we get dart frogs. So dart frogs.
You're
Can
not.
you-
We're not getting dart frogs
This is
until
weird. Normally it's her wanting something and you saying no.
I've always liked dart frogs. I took care of some.
Which is, what's bad though is give it 6 months and we're gonna have dart frogs, because other than the fact that he's not putting an alligator in my future swimming pool, there's
yes, I
really
am.
nothing he's ever been told no for.
I'm getting an alligator.
Not in my pool.
But I took care of at the zoo. We had dart frogs for that short period of time during the year of the amphibian. We got the dart frogs. Those Tinks, those little yellow.
Those were
back
fun.
or whatever. Those were cool.
We just where are we gonna put them?
You take one little Exoterra tank
But where?
on a shelf,
In what room?
a room with a shelf.
Not
it
the
looks
room on the other
great.
side of this wall.
It looked great in y'all's recording studio right there.
Right there in the
But
corner.
you do have a corner. You can put it in here.
You're right there. A
I
little
could
thing.
talk my principal into letting my corn snake come. You can put it right here by me.
What are those little green ones? Or
Which ones?
oh.
There's so many.
I was gonna say there's a
one
bajillion.
I'm thinking of. The bumblebees are the really, really small yellow ones, right?
So bumblebees, they're one of the few. They're very common. The leucomellas, they're black and yellow. They're
really-
medium size.
I like the blue ones.
Azurias.
Azurias,
Those
yeah.
are the staple.
There's like one's like almost like a mint green and black.
Of course, you want probably the
Probably
most
Costa
expensive one
Rican.
they are.
Laceratus.
It's a gift. Either one of us can walk up to a table to pick something we want and pick the most expensive thing on the table.
That's you.
100%.
That's not
Our
me.
daughter
I
is
pick the thing I
inheriting
want.
that gift.
I pick the thing I've wanted. You pick the thing that you go, ooh, that's pretty, and that ooh, that's pretty thing costs 10 grand.
Yeah, it does. Is that how much that snake costs?
Oh, I have no idea. The one from
Oh.
Kabilka, I have no clue.
Yeah, probably more.
He sends
Yeah.
me a picture of a ball python. I'm like, oh, I want that.
Yeah, so did everyone else. Everyone else that saw him, Kabilka post
It's,
that.
I
last week.
have a weakness for black and white, and it was gorgeous.
You know, there's some lovely black and white dart frogs too. Just saying.
Go for it, James. Black and white dart
No,
frogs.
no. The whole reason for a dart frog is bright colors. I'm not getting black and white.
We can have both.
All right. So are there any, because it's always a big thing with like reptiles, it's no. Are there any communal frog, not the same species, but like we could do multi-species habitat type stuff? Or is it better for all species to do them single?
Like with dart
So-
frogs?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't ever recommend mixing different species, or here's where dart frogs get tricky, or the different localities of dart frogs. So
Oh.
people think dart frogs are just often all one species. I get it all the time at shows. They think they're the same species.
But yeah, you have boas, all the boas. So you got any of them boas? Are those pythons?
Yep.
I don't know what the fuck you want.
Like
I
which
don't-
one?
Yeah, you want a children's python or retic?
Here's a retic. Yeah, this is
Right.
Yep. Exactly. And so it's funny I'll say pythons. That's like what I always equate it to. And I don't know how well it sinks into people or not. But everybody always wants to mix just all the pretty colors of dart frogs
well,
together.
they want to treat it like a fish tank.
Yep.
without
and
water.
that is a huge no-no with darts. You can run into hybridizing, which is I'm not going to get on my
Heck
soapbox.
yeah. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get a whole group of frog people to hate me because I just hybridize a whole bunch of dart frogs. That'd be
Exactly.
great.
That's
And
assuming
so-
that you can keep things like that you can reproduce them. I imagine it's
They're fucking easy to reproduce.
are they?
It depends on the species. So
Some of them I know are fucking like rabbits.
yes.
What?
So when you get into like Santa Isabel's, you can get Santa Isabel's for like $25. They're cute little red, like minty green striped frogs. Those guys.
Oh, I've seen those.
breed
Those are awesome
like
looking.
rabbits. They don't stop. And it's funny, a group of dart frogs and mantellas is referred to as an army. You will literally get an army of Santa Isabel's and have no idea what to do with like the 100 that you wind up with in your tank.
See, that's the other problem with not being able to do like big communal tanks with dart frogs is that you end up with like 20 tanks.
Yeah.
But
Because-
that's the joy of it. I have over 50 in my house
That's-
alone.
Robert, that's what you need to do. You need to build some sort of shelving unit for people that have dart frogs that holds exoterras.
where they slide out.
They just slide out.
That's not a bad idea because then we could just get a rack to put on the wall and have as many dart frogs
Well,
as
it
we
got to be
want.
rack. It still has to be like a glass tank, and I still got to be a tank.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Can't do
But
a
then
tub.
it has
I'm
its
just
own
building
shelf
a stand that it sits
Yeah.
on, and then
Yeah.
if you want to work on it,
for
it slides out
multiple
onto the
for
other one.
multiple.
I thought about it.
Fuck, now I'm thinking about
That
it.
could be it, Robert.
Damn.
Me and you will
It'd be
brainstorm
expensive.
this.
It'd be expensive.
Dart
but-
frog people
Every-
have no problem spending money.
Yeah, everything
Yeah.
in the dart frog hobby is expensive.
Dart frog people are
I
like
saw
saltwater
her
people.
at Lafayette over there. That freaking show was crazy for you, wasn't it?
It was.
It was like everybody that came in, because they see me when they come in and they're like, who has dart frogs? And I just pointed because she was right there. And it was like all day. I just saw her over there. And the next thing I know, I walk over, her whole display's empty. And she's like, I don't know. It's all gone.
Dart frog people are like saltwater people where like money
We
is
are.
not really an issue. You know it's going to be expensive to be in the hobby.
Well, then I need to start gearing towards dart frog people because
Hell yeah.
fucking ball python breeders want to
A little nickel and dime the shit out of you.
time the shit out of you.
No,
Oh,
when you start getting into darts, and people always ask, I mean, don't get me wrong, you can get into some crazy expensive dart frogs. I mean, you look at like an Ufaga histrionica blue, you can get for like
That's what I was going to say.
$1,500 for a little frog that's the size of your thumbnail.
I
That
need,
is
I
that is
need
true.
people
Darren,
to put captions on pictures.
so Darren is right. That is the one thing I was thinking, that once you have a fully set up tank, it is heavy. So it would have to be built properly. That's cool looking.
It's a cool looking frog.
And let me be clear, it's not all ball python people. It's,
No.
it's
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 just
reptile
most
people.
of them. No, I'm kidding.
no, it's the people who bought 3 yellow bellies and a normal.
And they're going to make
and they're gonna
millions.
make millions. And can't understand why 4 tubs cost $450.
I can go buy this one cage for, okay, then fucking go buy it.
Right.
Well, it's like, so dart frog people are like it's like fish people in the sense that the animal is really not the most expensive part of the setup.
Yep.
Mm-mm.
It is the setup itself. Most
I mean, because
definitely.
there's a lot that goes into
Freaking
that.
love frogs. Damn, I should have never done this.
So now you want dart frogs?
Yes. I still want my Amazon milks though. Like
I
those are
will
the
tell you,
those are
love
the next
milk
on my
frogs.
list.
I'll do
Milk
that.
frogs are awesome.
She did a video on how to set up milk frogs.
Those are the next frogs on my
Wasn't it
list.
milk frogs that you did on how to set up? I mean, what milk frogs? What was the
I
one
did
you-
my Vietnamese mossies.
mossy frogs. I knew it was a
But,
frog that I
um,
liked. Yeah, those.
I've had
I love tree frogs, but milk frogs are by far the messiest.
That's the
of
problem with
worse.
when I worked at the zoo. We'd have tanks like a it would be like a communal tank of just things that we found at the zoo, kind of like a big setup. And the frogs were always the worst part because they just
Yep.
dirty up the glass. They shit on it. They goo all over it. It's a nightmare with those things.
Oh yeah, that's milk frogs for sure. They are messy as all get out.
See, now I don't want milk frogs as much as I think they're cool.
Too bad.
Yeah, we'll get dart frogs. They don't climb on the glass. We'll be good.
I want
Dart frogs
kids
are a
and
lot cleaner.
dart frogs.
Just
Yeah,
saying.
Get lots of springtails in it, clean up everything. Never have to do anything.
I've at least quadrupled my knowledge on frogs tonight.
Yeah.
I know, right? So I listened to that podcast. It's James laughs at me for it.
It's your like 5-minute podcast.
It's not even, it's like 2.5 minute episodes. It's great. We actually listened to one in class the other day. I'm going to pull it up so I don't like butcher it and tell you the wrong thing. Because with my luck, I will. It's the frog of the week.
Oh, that's right. The frog of the week.
Mhm. We listened to the one on tomato frogs in class the other day.
So Darren wants to know if dart frog calls are loud and if it's something that would keep you up in the night. I know some of them are loud. The little tiny
So
frog, it is a high pitch, like it's loud.
some of them are very loud. The great thing with dart frogs is they are diurnal or active during the day. So it would be incredibly rare for them to call at night, at least if you have a normal photo period. Now, if you leave like a ton of lights on in your house 24/7, then yeah, they might call during night hours. But yeah, once the lights go off, I have mine all set on timers and I just keep their photo period normal. So like I change it with when it starts getting darker later or earlier or whatever. And so that's a great question because a lot of people don't take that into consideration, how loud frogs can be. I mean, you think about a bullfrog calling outside of your house if you live on a lake
yeah.
or something, and you can hear that crap.
But like when it's that big, you expect it. But some of those small tree frogs are like scream.
Yep. And so like Leucomelas, the black and yellow or bumblebee dart frogs, they're definitely one of my most recommended beginner species. They reach a good size. They're pretty darn hardy for a dart frog. They're very communal, generally regardless of sex ratio. So for instance, I have a breeding quad in one of my tanks that I've kept together for like 5 years and 0 issues. But they are loud. They have a loud call. You will hear it across your house.
Yeah, that's fun for one day. I'm not sure how
See,
fun it is a weekend.
I love it because usually it's followed by babies. But there are plenty of dart frog species in particular that you're not going to hear. Like, unless you literally have their enclosure open and your head stuck in there listening for it, you're not going to hear them. And so the big 2 that come to mind that are great for first-time dart froggers that are quiet are going to be any of your Auratus species and any of your Tinctoria species.
And the Tinks are big ones. Like they're a good sized frog.
Yeah. Phyllobates are great. So the phyllobates are what a lot of people are hyping on now just because of how insanely cool they are in the wild. It's actually the single most toxic vertebrate on the planet. If y'all didn't know that, Phyllobates terribilis.
That's what I want. I want a frog that can kill people.
It's funny. I actually got that at the Austin show. And the guy asked me if they're poisonous, and he genuinely got disappointed when I told him no. And he asked me if there was any way to import the beetles that the terribilis eat from Colombia. So
there's totally gonna kill somebody. There's totally gonna be a dead wife at some point.
Yeah.
That is a planned murder for sure.
Maybe not a wife, but somebody for sure.
No, that's poison. He's trying to figure out a way to poison his wife so he doesn't get caught.
But like you said, some of the tiny ones, so like some of my absolute favorite frogs in my collection are my Oophaga Pamelio strawberry blue jeans. They're what we call a thumbnail species.
See, that's okay. Maybe I can't get into this hobby because that shit is ridiculous. 1, I don't do scientific names, and then 2, the common names are confusing as hell.
There's not a lot of common names either.
Is that the red? It's like red on the top, and it's got like the blue speckled legs.
So that's a relative. The blue jeans are red, and we call them blue jeans because it looks like they're wearing little jeans. Like their front legs and their back legs look like they have blue jeans on.
I think I just saw that one, and it looked really cool.
And
I was looking at pictures.
They're tiny, but same thing. When my males are calling, you can hear them. Like, it's remarkable how loud they are for such a tiny animal.
So the thing I always liked about when I had those dart frogs at the zoo was it's very much like a fish tank in the fact that they're not always going to be in the same place, and you kind of have to get down, especially if it's if it's planted well, if it's done well, you have to get down and look underneath stuff to see them.
Yep.
There's periods of time where like you just completely never know if all 7 of your frogs are alive.
Yeah, most definitely.
You should have to like assume they're there.
If you start getting larger groups, especially very communal frogs like the Phyllobates terribilis, those are amongst the largest of the dart frogs. They're very communal with each other. But yeah, my buddy Troy Goldberg, he has, I think, 12 or 13 mint terribilis in his, I think it's the 180 gallon he has them in.
He thinks he has them in there.
Well, he gets egg production from them like they're all in there. But yeah, he'll rarely see all of them at the same time. I mean, even some of my breeding quads, I may see like 2 a day. But that's part of the beauty of it. So I love it.
Speaking of breeding, Darren wants to ask, are they sold sexed or do you just get what you get?
So dart frogs in particular, you cannot sex bare minimum. Earliest, I would say, for some of your smaller, faster maturing species, like 8 to 9 months.
Damn.
And so it's very uncommon to see sexed dart frogs for sale. Reason being, if we're keeping them long enough to sex them, we're going to keep them to pair them off and breed them ourselves.
I mean, how old do they have to be before they can start reproducing?
So once again, it varies highly between species. So when you get the smaller guys, like the little Ranatomea thumbnails, those guys can start breeding at about 1-year-olds. Males can mature as early as 8 months. Females usually average about 1-year-old. For your larger Phyllobates species, it can take up to 2 years before the females become, egg laying age.
I definitely assume they had so what's the lifespan on something like that?
I have a friend. Now, this is definitely not common, but he has a pair that is 28 years old and still breeding.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
My-
older than most people's snakes.
My
Jeez.
oldest pair of darts in my collection, my actual first ones, are 13 years old.
Okay, so I totally thought these were like chameleons. Like,
I really
5
thought we
years.
were talking like 8 years max.
Yeah.
Nope. I have plenty of darts myself that are young teens. I have a lot of friends that have them that are like mid to late teens and still very actively reproducing.
so you're telling me we can have Katie's fat ass frog for 20 years?
Pac-Man! My oldest Pac-Man made it to 13.
Okay.
So they're not as long-lived.
Which is weird. You would think big fat ass thing not moving would live much longer than these little like high energy frogs.
Badass people that don't move don't live long.
Yeah, but tortoises, big tortoises live forever.
Yeah, see, the dart frogs are like the fitness buffs in the amphibian worlds.
That's crazy.
I was gonna say, yeah, my Brazilian horn frog can live for up to 15.
Fucking frogs. Okay. So in the hobby, what is like the number one thing you normally see people screw up with the first time? Like, I'm getting dart frogs, besides wanting to put like 15 different species together in like a fish tank.
That's definitely the first thing. There's so many different aspects that make people think dart frogs are so complicated just because they overcomplicate it.
I think it's
And
the
so-
setup. I think when people
Yes.
see that fully planted setup in their head, it's, oh man, that's difficult. But in reality, if done well, you're just adding water to it.
So the number one common mistake I see newcomers make as far as setups is insisting on incorporating a water feature.
Yeah.
Huge.
Everybody wants a waterfall.
Yep. And so I will tell y'all, there are certain species like America and the Epipedobates, the little Santa Isabels, where they're native to, they're used to living in more flooded areas. So if you're going to insist on a water feature, you need to make sure and get a dart frog that can handle it. And so what I mean by that, a lot of people just automatically assume, oh, dart frog, tropical rainforest, they live under waterfalls. Dart frogs are not aquatic. They are not good swimmers. They will drown.
So they're not a great paludarium type animal.
Not at all.
Okay, there goes my
like
doubt.
when the people find a box turtle and say, I put it in the
I put it-
pond.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Or when they find a tortoise. Or it's like,
Exactly.
look at this tortoise.
Think. The other issue you run into that is definitely challenging for beginners, and it can even be challenging for experienced people alike, is not thinking long term. So I actually come from the reef tank hobby myself, and dart frogs, like so many of us, have done both aquariums and dart frogs because a lot of the info kind of transfers over. And so long term, whenever you are having a live planted tank, which in my opinion is an absolute must for darts, there's not really any other way you're going to successfully keep them long term. Those plants do best under usually around a thick 6,000 lumen LED light. With that light, if you have a water feature, that's going to just boom cyanobacteria in there.
Oh, yeah.
In your water feature. And so you're basically making your life a lot more difficult when you insist on having either a drip wall or a little waterfall or a pool or something. And the vast majority of people are not going to want to deal with that or even know how to deal with that. So my advice, just nix the water feature. You do not need it.
Okay, because then my mind is like, ooh, a paludarium with some guppies. And then, no, okay, I'm just going to drown frogs if I do that. Got it. So are
Now
most of
you
your
can
frogs...
definitely do like tree frogs, reed
Yeah.
frogs, things like that. But yeah, I do not recommend it for dart frogs.
So are your frogs mostly like breeding in like bromeliads and stuff? Are you putting that kind of stuff in the tank to hold or to
Yep.
hold water?
Yep. So next biggest issue I see people struggle with is maintaining humidity appropriately. Oh, excuse me. So there's a big kind of disconnect, I think, for a lot of people in terms of humidity
And
versus
wet?
just plain wet.
Oh yeah, no,
Exactly.
I have Brazilian rainbow boas, and there's growing up with my rainbow boa was always a constant like, all right, we got to get humidity, but we can't grow mold. And so that was always a very tricky thing because people are
Yep.
like, you got to keep it wet, and like they don't want to be wet. They just want the air to be wet, and it's a
That is
completely different thing.
exactly the same thing with dart frogs. And so it's really easy for a beginner to flood a tank.
Yeah.
And basically cause the bad anaerobic bacteria to grow and crash your entire tank. And if you're lucky, you might get your frogs out alive. But with your bigger terrestrial species, so like your Tinctorius, your bigger Erotus, your Phyllobates, they're really susceptible to an issue we call trench foot. And what that is they don't have enough dry land. And so
it's like scale rot.
Yep. They spend much more time on the forest floor. And the good rule of thumb is your leaf litter, which is critical for dart frogs, should never be wet. That's kind of the point of the leaf litter for them, is it's dry. And whenever you have a wet, saturated floor, you know, their feet are just sitting in it the whole time. And it causes bad bacteria to develop on their skin. Of course, being amphibians, they have very delicate, very uniquely adapted skin. And so it absolutely hammers them. And I've seen people that message me, like on Instagram, especially, asking me what the heck is wrong with their Phyllobates terribilis, definitely the most common frog I see suffering with this. And their foot will literally be rotted off.
Ugh.
And that's trench foot. That's keeping your tank way too wet.
I have a big empty front opening Exoterra in the garage. Now I'm just like, I really want to do this. But the problem, I can't.
Which one?
That big Exoterra.
I have like 4 of them at home.
Oh, just kidding. I thought you were talking about the one that we went and picked up that day, because I'm totally putting Halloween crabs in that.
Well, that's fine. No, I've got the tall one.
Okay.
But then, like, if I got to do it, I'm going to do it. What?
I just got super excited
Yeah, I saw that.
because I just realized I signed up to be in charge of the zoology club,
Okay.
which means I can put more animals in my classroom. Okay, sorry.
But if I'm going to do it, this is
Small victories, Katie.
so. These dart frogs, the same reason I haven't done saltwater fish, is I can't afford to do saltwater fish the way I would do saltwater fish. But I think if I slowly build the tank for a while before I ever add frogs, I can do dart frogs.
Well,
that's actually what I recommend anyways. So dart frogs are a little bit unique. Of course, like bioactive is the huge craze, and that's been a thing in the dart frog community since the 80s when people first started keeping dart frogs. So with darts, it's a little bit different in that most of the time you don't have to worry about your inhabitants eating the cleanup crew. That's not the case with dart frogs. Dart frogs will absolutely demolish your springtail population. And so you can set up a tank and put them in, but I definitely recommend having some good master springtail cultures so you can keep adding more in. But like the tanks, that's the biggest reason I had so many people asking me to just sell pre-built tanks at the shows that are move-in ready. And it takes the guesswork out of it for people, because I have more springtails and isopods than I could ever need in my life for anything. And so every tank that I sell at the shows has been set up and running for usually on average at least about a month or so. That way the plants are rooted in, and the dart frogs aren't going to just trample them, uproot them, that kind of thing. And then your cleanup crew, so your springtails and your isopods, have already reproduced in there multiple times. So definitely something to keep in mind with dart frogs.
I mean, to me, it sounds like we could give her a tank and be like, hey,
But no, I want to pick out the plants and I want to
here
design,
you go.
because I want it to be like,
Nope. I'm at a point in my life where I will pay for the
we've
convenience
already
of
had that
having it
conversation.
done.
No.
See,
This is-
James is like me. I would never buy a pre-built tank.
No.
I love building them myself.
I want to build the different levels. I don't want it to just be a flat thing with a plant in the middle. Like
I
different
would
levels to
like-
go up and down. And
I would like for you to finish with your fish tank
oh yeah, I'm finished.
before you move on to this project.
I'm gonna go fish tomorrow,
I know.
and then my new plastic. See, that's the other thing is like plants. I'm not doing live plants in my fish tank because I know that I just don't have the lighting or the time to do all that. But I know like you're gonna have to have plant lights if you have dart frogs, because you got to grow all that shit. So how are you heating those guys? I mean, how warm do they have to be?
Darren Watson is loving this episode, and I love that so much.
Well, I'm
So-
glad you love it.
I know. Well, so Darren says, I want to start up a dart frog setup too. Do you have beginner videos on your channel? He has so many questions.
I do have some. So it is a very new channel. And one of my mics actually crapped out on me. So that's why I was doing really good uploading every week. And then, you know.
See, if you want, you could always just come over here and voice over. I've got equipment here.
That's true.
And then we could build my tank for your channel. Just like,
I mean, I'm open to that.
To say, I'm sure James would love another project where he goes and records and helps you.
I just want dart frogs now. Now that I'm like, how often are you feeding dart frogs?
So when you get them, most of the time when you get them, any good breeder will not sell them less than 3 months out of water. And so a lot of my guys, I'm selling closer to 4. Reason I say that, you got to think whenever they are coming out of land, they're really tiny. Even your bigger species are still really small. And a lot of people don't have the know-how on how to properly rear them at that stage. And so, you know, I get asked a lot about selling tadpoles and stuff, and you can certainly do it. I just don't like it because I feel like it's kind of setting people up for failure.
Yeah.
Because the tadpole stage to me is actually very easy. I mean, you change their water as needed when it.
So you like keep a bunch of them in little tiny clear like Jello shot cups or whatever, and
yeah, and there's multiple ways you can do it depending on the species. Some of them you can raise communally in just a big tub with a sponge filter, feed them every couple of days, and they're golden.
What do they eat?
So you can do. They actually sell commercial tadpole diets. I like to use Repashy Soylent Green myself. I find it to be the most easy commercially available food. And you can also do it either as powder if you are feeling lazy, or you can mix it up, reconstitute it, and make the gel and just put like a little nickel-sized disc in or so if you're doing like a communal tub.
So last week on the podcast, we mentioned the argumentative essays that my students are writing. And so one of my students, because I've gotten the claim and their supports that they've come up with on their own, and they've started their introduction and they're writing out the reasonings. And one of my boys, who's actually one of my lower readers, his claim is that we should get caterpillars for class. And his supports were, the first one was so that we can observe the life cycle. His words, not mine. I was so pumped when I read that in a sentence, by the way. And then the other reason was because we could then release the butterflies once they change. And I'm thinking in my mind, as you're talking about this, that tadpoles would actually be a really good thing to do in a classroom also. Maybe not dart frog tadpoles.
Big ass bullfrog tadpole.
But like that's what I'm saying. Like, you know, I'm sure there's a frog out there that is. There are bound to be classes that
Petco or PetSmart when they get a goldfish shipment in, and they have those big old bullfrog tadpoles in there.
Do they really?
Oh yeah, every now and then.
Oh,
Yeah, they get those goldfish shipments in, and
I mean, I'm sure we know people that we could probably get this
they have
from.
those giant tadpoles.
Bullfrogs are about the easiest one because they still morph out so big. I mean, they're little
And
garbage.
just to be able to watch the change, and
It's
what
really
we-
cool.
would we just keep the frog when we were done?
No, I'm not keeping a bullfrog.
I mean, I don't know how that. I mean, I don't want to just like let it go in the wild, or
I mean, it's probably also a good thing because there's a lot of viruses in frogs right now. Chytrid and all. It's probably,
Yep.
probably shouldn't let it go. But you could eat it.
I'm not gonna eat a frog.
If it was a bullfrog, you could eat it.
No.
I had a kid the other day tell me that she's like, I had a bullfrog leg, or I had a frog leg. And I was like, she goes, I only had one. I was like, they come in pairs. I don't know.
What'd she say?
She said she didn't like it.
Oh,
I was like, I don't blame you.
I'm not a fan.
I'm not eating them anyway. I bet Robert likes them.
What, bullfrog?
Frog
Frog
legs.
legs.
Fucking love them.
Yeah,
I never.
they're all right. I mean, I've been
Robert's
gigging
like,
before.
Robert's like, it lived outside. I'll eat it.
I mean, when I was little, we didn't know what we were doing. We were just helping Daddy catch frogs. we didn't know what they were for. But
See, there was no mistake in the way we did it because we did it with a gig. So you're
where you were
You stab
getting them?
'em?
Yeah. No, Daddy, he would do that every now and then, but that wasn't until we were
With
a
your
little
little
bigger.
trident.
I think he was
What?
afraid
With
we
your
were
little
going to
trident.
stab each other with the gig, and that's
that
why.
happened, that happened too.
Yeah, that's why we were never given the gigs. We would either point at the frog and the
And then-
bigger ones
and then
would
laugh
handle
at you
it,
while you chase down a bull.
or we
frog.
would catch
But-
the frogs.
Then my grandpa got one that had just like a fork on it, and it would grab them and not kill them. So you could hit them, and it had like a spring.
Oh, that's cool.
Then it would grab them, and you go, "Oh, he's too little. Let him go."
Oh, that's cool.
It was
Okay,
one
well
thing.
now that you say that, maybe that's what we had
I do
because
not remember what you had.
I wasn't allowed to use it. I don't know because Daddy wouldn't always keep the ones that he would catch.
Because he probably paid money for that and didn't want you to break it.
That's also a very strong possibility. I mean, there were at any given time 4 to 5 of us with him doing this. So,
Yeah.
and everybody else is younger than I am.
See, I got lucky. My mom,
So, yeah.
my mom had me at a young age, 18, and so I was the oldest grandkid by like 7 years. So I got to do everything by myself.
Mhm.
I didn't have to have all my little cousins with me, and so I got to learn a lot of that stuff from my grandpa.
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
I was gonna say, as a frog person, how often do you get told by people about them eating frogs?
I mean, fairly regularly. I'd be lying if I said I haven't had frog legs myself. Not going to deny it. But the funny thing, I don't know if this will surprise y'all or not. I get so many people at my table, and it's usually grown men that are terrified of frogs.
I had a friend, she was in high school, she was afraid of frogs. I'm like, how the hell are you afraid of frogs?
I get it at every show.
I'm like,
Somebody
it's-
will see and be like, "Oh, what's in here?" And see it's a little teeny tiny frog, and then literally like back up.
I have an
And
aunt
freak
who's
out.
afraid of elephants. Like even the word elephant, she have to say the E word around here. I
See, that one's weird
but
because, like,
here's the
what
thing.
are the odds you come into
She's a
contact-
horse person. She shows horses professionally.
That's an
That's
elephant.
like the closest animal we have in the United States
Yeah.
to an elephant,
Yeah.
and like size wise.
I had a roommate in college, Doritos.
She was afraid of Doritos.
She was like the chip.
She was afraid she'd slice your throat open on a Dorito.
She was afraid that whoever was eating them,
She was
it would
also
like
afraid
get
of
lodged
balloon. Was it the
in
one?
her.
No,
She didn't like balloons.
Yeah, she was afraid of balloons.
Like we could not have balloons in the house.
Oh, I'd have been a balloon.
Oh,
having
yeah.
Frito, Cheeto-eating motherfucker.
Yeah.
Oh,
Making balloon animal Doritos.
Yeah.
I just remember as a zookeeper, like when I was a zookeeper, I'd always get, because I was in Louisiana and they eat fucking everything. People would always tell me how much they wanted to eat the animals I was taking care of.
Yep.
Alligators, snakes,
Well, that's
snapping turtles.
Louisiana, bro. I mean, that's just
I mean, yeah, that's what they do.
yeah.
Yeah, I got asked a couple of times at shows like how many of the dart frogs somebody would have to eat for it to kill them. And I'm like, why do you want to know this information?
You should be like, I don't know, if you choke on the first one. It's
You know
one.
why? You know why they want to know? It's because there's so many true crime podcasts.
No, it's because of the TV show
it's
Jackass.
the weird,
My sister,
morbid sense.
she doesn't listen to this, so she'll never know I told this story.
Oh, geez.
When she was about 10, she choked on something. I don't remember what it was.
We'll say a frog, okay? Choke on a frog.
She only drank chocolate milk for about a year,
Because she was afraid she would choke on whatever.
and it kept her alive.
Oh, she
And
only drank chocolate milk.
only drank chocolate.
She didn't
milk.
eat.
She didn't eat. It had enough
Bless
nutrition
her.
and
Jesus.
enough.
Yep.
That it kept her alive, and that's it. Chocolate milk. That's it for about a year.
That has got to be the worst shits.
I
for
choked
a
on a
year.
I choked on a sliced pickle on a hamburger when I was like 3.
I know how to eat food. I don't
And
know what to tell you.
I choke at like every freaking meal. What are we talking about here?
Shit, I watched a SWAT guy who's like one of the baddest ass people I know choke on a fucking enchilada and had to do the Heimlich maneuver on him. One
My
time.
mom used to cut the ends of the hot dogs off because she was afraid I'd choke on the end.
The fuck?
Okay.
What about the rest of the hot dog?
Yeah, I
I'd
was
eat the
like,
rest of the hot dog, but apparently the end is different.
Just
Yeah.
no, it's not.
The end is the
Shut
smaller
up.
part
It's the
too.
same.
Shut up, both of you.
It's
Because
just
your
round.
minds both just went into the gutter.
Y'all don't want to know what Chris Eaton's talking about choking on.
Oh God. It's probably the same conversation he sent me earlier with questions to ask James that I am not asking on air.
It had to do a band camp.
I did get a.
I mean, we've both been to band
All right,
camp. It is
so-
not like that.
So I'm not telling April that I'm going to put this on radio, but I'm doing it right now. April just messaged me and said, what are things I can't go to a show as a vendor without? Because she's going to be at Slidell, which I hate that I'm not going to be there.
I'm bringing her displays.
Yeah.
But as someone who's vended and you vended and Audrey, you vended, what are some things if people out there, if they're going to go vend for the first time, things they need? I mean, first
paper towels.
Yeah, paper towels.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Towels, yep.
Paper towels.
Change is good. Change or a friend that you know that has change. That works too. Nowadays, card reader. You gotta have a card reader.
Yeah.
I like Square. I've grown to like my Square, but I also like.
Did y'all hear what happened this weekend?
What happened?
We got to the show Saturday morning, and Sean's I could just see on his face that something's wrong. And I'm like, everything okay, buddy? He's like, they don't have fucking Wi-Fi here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He said they told us they had Wi-Fi, and they brought out a fucking hotspot. It's a metal building. No, I had to walk customers out front to run credit cards.
Oh my god!
And I couldn't get it to connect to my card reader, so I'm having to hand key their cards in, all super sketchy.
Oh
yeah,
and that costs more to hand key them in too.
1 more %, yeah.
Yep.
But I think that's actually already been fixed because Sean was like, "I'll pay for it. Just get it installed." You know. So super nice venue though.
Is it?
It was very nice, except for the bathrooms.
Yeah,
that's why I heard multiple people telling me about the bathrooms.
The bathrooms are horrible.
I heard the women's was a lot worse. Like a couple of the stalls didn't have locks on the doors.
What?
Yeah, Rachel was telling me you had to have use your foot to hold the door shut while you're peeing.
Yeah,
that's
and
talent.
The toilets in the women's bathroom didn't flush,
Yeah.
and people just like kept
using.
It was gross. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it was nasty.
That was a little rough, but you know, the next time
video
it'll be a lot better.
Nice. So
I think there was only like 2 trash cans in the whole building. So I think Sean said he ordered like 20 and just had them delivered there. So next time we'll have trash cans. But yeah,
it's still got to be
dumpsters.
It's still better than the old venue having to lift every rack over that lip.
Yeah,
for sure.
So Audrey, as a vendor, what is something else that you would say that I can tell April later on when I message her that she would need to have?
I guess it depends on what she's selling.
Snakes,
pythons,
bloods, yeah. A decent tablecloth, doesn't
tape.
Yeah.
Tape.
You can never go wrong with duct tape. Like it never fails. Like everybody always needs tape.
No, Gorilla tape.
Yeah. There you go.
Tape way better.
Extra like extension cords or power strip. I always keep them with me. So
I would say if you're going to do shows on a regular basis, get a banner. And you don't have to put a lot of money into a banner. You can get them fairly cheap, and you can buy a cheap banner stand off of Amazon for $20-$30.
More like $50.
Is it $50?
Yeah,
but you can get one for $50 off of there. I'm always one of those. If you're going to be a vendor at a show, you got to set yourself you got to be a little different than somebody. You can't be the guy that just has a blank table, because you've seen them so many times. No banner. You don't know whose table you're actually at. You're not actually sure what they're selling. Like from a distance, they don't stick out. So at least get you a banner, get you up there. And
I definitely say business cards. I hand out so many business cards from people or to people at the show. And then they do the research and then message me back and want to buy something from me. So business cards are great.
That's a good one.
Plenty.
I'm just trying to think what else. It depends on the venue. If you can have drinks.
Sanitizer.
Hand sanitizer is good. If you can have drinks, bring a cooler with drinks. Not all venues allow that. Some do. But having your own cooler with drinks makes the weekend way easier. The small things. I'm trying to think what's in my tub, because everybody at a show has a tub. You have your show tub that's got all of your stuff in it. But I think that's most paper towels is a big one. Like you really underestimate how often you need a paper towel.
They're finally trying Lindley Rennick.
Yes, that's what I was talking about later.
Okay,
we're talking about that.
Okay,
but I
didn't realize her trial had started.
It was in Reptiles magazine.
Yeah, it's actually the jury has it in their hands right now.
Yeah, it's the opening things were like earlier, like a couple days ago.
Yeah. Yesterday. All right. Anyway, go ahead.
I was trying to, there was a frog question that I wanted to go. Oh, Darren said, what size Exoterra is the best for dendrobates?
That's always a tough question to answer, because people think because they're small, they don't need a lot of space. So dendrobates can vary greatly. So say you get Dendrobates auratus, they're very communal, very peaceful with each other. So you can keep a bigger group of them together safely, even upon sexual maturity, than you can Dendrobates tinctorius. I personally don't generally ever recommend keeping more than a 1-1 pair of Tinks, unless you really start getting into a large enclosure, because especially the females, when they become reproductively active, they will wrestle each other. They will stress each other the heck out. Like, they've been known to kill each other.
Oh, wow.
But bare minimum standard size is going to be an 18 cube. You know, it's a little small for a pair of Tinks, but if you scape it out well, you have it nicely planted, you can definitely get away with it. I've successfully bred pairs of Tinks in 18 cubes for years. And you could keep, I'd say, definitely no more than a trio of like Dendrobates auratus or Dendrobates leucomellas in an 18 cube. But the more space you provide them, the better. You know, I have people come up and like, oh, I have a 180-gallon tank and I wanted darts, but it seems like such a waste of space. Darts are really cool in that they will utilize every square inch of any size enclosure you give them.
Well, like I said, when I was at the zoo, we had I think it was a 55 setup with Tinks, and it was just always cool because they were always somewhere else hiding underneath a leaf or a plant, and so like going and watching them interact, especially with like, you know, feeding is obviously the one time where most of us reptile keepers actually get to interact with our animals the most. But watching them all come out and feed, but also just watching them just hop around and do normal frog stuff with each other when they're just living, I think it's really cool.
Yep. But yeah, 18 cube is a standard, you know, acceptable minimum size. I wouldn't push it past 3 in there, and definitely no more than 2 Tinks. Like I said, Tinks are just an entirely different ball game. They're kind of the schoolyard bullies, but everybody loves them.
Well, everyone likes because you can see them. Like they are big enough to be able to see.
So people think frogs are boring because I get it all the time. Everybody insists on having a pet you can handle. And that's not frogs. That's not going to be frogs, period. But like my pair of green sips, my oldest pair in my collection, all frogs are like very food motivated, especially dart frogs. They will come to recognize the fruit fly containers. And on feeding day, whenever I go to feed them, they will literally try and hop out on my hand and just eat straight from my hand. Like, they're super personable. They're, you know, the poster child for aposematism. So they have very few natural predators in the wild. So they're not really scared of anything.
Well, see, it's funny. You talk about people thinking that frogs are boring. I'm always amazed because I have a 55-gallon freshwater tank and a lot of little tropical fish and a lot of catfish. I like catfish. But I'm always amazed when people are like, yeah, fish tanks are boring. I'm like, I love fish tanks. Like, I can sit there and just watch my fish tank for an hour and it would be amazing. I don't get that mentality.
Like, once you have it set up and dialed in, it does become a lot lower maintenance than people give it credit for.
Yes.
Like me, all of my tanks, I've had tanks set up for over a decade that I literally just clean the glass, they get misted, and I feed and I prune plants. That's it.
I think people, they're used to animals, whether it be a non-reptile or whether it be something like a bearded dragon, which you have to do a little more for. They think when you see something like a fully decked out tank, that means that's more work. But in reality, a fully decked out tank ran properly is less work than your bearded dragon on some aspen and a piece of wood and it's a completely different thing.
Yep.
And so it's like when people look at big saltwater tanks for fish, a big saltwater tank set up with the right filtration and everything else, all you're doing is making sure the water is topped off and everything should run the way it should run. Same for freshwater. Like my freshwater tank, I just add I do water changes, but it's not that hard. It takes me 20 minutes to do a water change.
Yep.
So I think it's much easier than I think people give it. Like I said, the obvious thing with our post was everybody understood fruit flies are a pain in the ass.
Yeah. And like I said, I personally recommend having, if you only have a few tanks, I'd say at least 2 cultures per tank. You always want to have a backup. You know, if somebody buys a tank and darts and stuff from me, like I had 2 people do this week in Austin, I always recommend getting at least 2 cultures. You know, there's always a chance that one can crash for whatever reason. If it got too hot is a common issue, or if wild fruit flies got in and then they bred and they started creating the wingless, or not wingless, flighted Melanogasters again. Obviously, you just want to pitch that culture. Melanogaster and Turkish glider are pretty much referred to or regarded as the easiest ones to culture. They're kind of the hardiest, most forgiving. And so their production rate, Turkish glider is the fastest. They can honestly reproduce every 3 days. And then Melanogaster right behind them every 4 to 6. And so you want to at least plan on having cultures to feed, however many darts you have. For me, I have 60 cultures at a time going because I go through a million of them. I made my fruit fly cultures today. So it's a Wednesday thing for me. But the thing is, like, you culture them, they don't stink. They're not loud. They take up very minimal amount of space.
My problem was always just mold growth.
So mold growth can really depend on the media that you're using. That tends to be the biggest issue.
I'm sure we were not using the best in a genetics lab.
So as far as commercially available media, probably the most easy, accessible one everybody's going to be familiar with is going to be the Hashi Superfly. That's the one that I generally will recommend to people. My buddy Alex Mankey, he's the company Frog Daddy up in North Carolina. He's got really great fruit fly media as well. And the other thing people, I think, don't realize as an option is you can order fruit flies on a subscription service and literally get them delivered straight to your door.
That's the route I think I may go.
And I always recommend this to people at the shows because a lot of people, if you only have one tank of dart frogs, it may not be worth your while to invest in all the culturing materials. And so it may be more cost effective for you to just order a couple of producing cultures and have them shipped to you. And my man Alex is definitely the guy I recommend for that. He's got the best commercially available fruit fly cultures by far.
And how long do you think a culture can last you?
Generally we feed from them for a month, so
That's
30 days. It's not that the flies turn bad. The big issue you'll run into beyond 30 days is with mites. And so they're non-parasitic mites. They're not harmful. They just become more of a nuisance. And if they overtake your fruit fly culture, they're going to crash it anyways because they're out competing the fruit flies in there. And it's just going to cause your culture to crash anyways. So I just say pitch it after 30 days or so.
The mention of mites made me think of this. On my test that I had to take the other day for being a teacher in Texas, there was a question about mites and whether or not they were just general or if they were animal species, if they were
animal type.
Yes, if they were animal type specific. And I was like, oh, I know the answer to this one. Yeah. That was one I got right.
The other thing I think a lot of people don't realize is, yes, dart frogs are micro feeders, but they can't eat more than just fruit flies. So you can always have backup feeders that people may think are a little bit easier to culture.
Just going to grow them a whole culture of sugar ants.
So bean beetles are one. Black soldier fly larva, extra small black soldier fly larva is fantastic for froglets, especially. I give them to my more fresh froglets. Rice flower beetles, springtails, even the larva from fruit flies. So whenever I get a culture that's starting to reach close to that 30 days, but I still have an active reproductive cycle, a common trick a lot of us will do is literally just take the lid off of the culture, lay it on its side in the enclosure, and the frogs go ham on it. They absolutely love it.
That's cool. I started the night going, I will never do fruit flies, and now I'm like, hey, I think I should get dart frogs to eat fruit flies.
Let's go through this craziness again.
They're not so bad. Like I said, I'll culture fruit flies any day of the week over any other insect.
Ugh. Okay, I think I'm frogged out. Anybody have any other frog questions?
Nope.
Mm-mm.
I think Darren is going to get going to get frogs tomorrow. He is
So
ready.
my
love it.
biggest takeaway advice. So if you're interested in frogs, if you take nothing else away from this, keep this point in mind. If you're interested in darts, definitely research the different species. And like I said, I can't stress enough, people will just pick out a dart frog based on its color. Like, oh, red is my favorite color. I want a red dart frog.
You mean that's not how this works?
Not at all.
What?
So
That's totally how Katie
I
planned on picking.
disagree.
So they do have different needs. You know, certain dart frogs require a much more vertically oriented enclosure, like thumbnails, perfect example. You're hardly ever going to find them on the floor. So you need to think about planning out accordingly to give them a much taller enclosure. And like I said, every dart frog will utilize every square inch you give them, but as we always say, there's a difference between surviving and thriving. So you want to try and mimic what they're going to feel most comfortable in. And
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I feel
you're
like I
good.
should also insert here that while, yes, I mostly pick things based on their colors and how they look because I judge all books by covers. Once I pick what I want, I will do the research for it. Like, I don't want people to be like, I mean, I don't need us to be a reason we get a bad review. So let me just say, once I pick what I like, then I will do the research and then I will get the animal.
And that's what I tell people. Do that with dart frogs because they do have different behaviors, different mannerisms. You'll see whenever I bring my frogs to shows, I work with a ton of different species. I do not bring any to shows unless they're pre-sold that I would not consider beginner friendly. And reason I say that is the little thumbnails, they are not beginner friendly. I would never recommend them as a first time dart frog. And people become enamored with them because A, they're tiny and they're adorable. They're often the most brightly colored, the most intricately patterned. But those guys, A, I cannot stress this enough, teeny tiny. They are lightning fast. And so I've heard of so many horror stories where somebody gets them and they don't have an appropriate tank set up for them. They open the door and that frog is gone.
Oh, man.
And the other thing is when you start getting into the thumbnails, those start getting to be your much more pricier frogs. So
yeah, I'll pass on
Yeah.
that. That's not gonna be the route I'm going. Darren had a question. I meant to ask, sorry, so I kind of got there and then we got sidetracked. He said, can they survive in his reptile room that's ambient of about 80 to 84, which is fucking ridiculous, Darren. How do you work in a reptile room that is 80 degrees?
I'm sorry to break it to you, but you don't want to keep them in there. Anything above 80 is definitely going to stress them and can prove fatal for dart frogs.
So where is that perfect medium? Are you giving your frogs any heat or is room temperature fine,
No
like
heat.
with cresteds?
No heat. Standard room temperature is fine. So
Wait. You've got to be more
The problem is
specific.
we don't live in standard.
What do you consider
Nope,
standard?
That's what I'm getting to.
Okay.
Honestly, anywhere between high 60s to mid 70s is ideal for
Oh,
dart
fuck
frogs.
yeah, we could do that.
Totally live at our house.
That's my kind of animal.
And so, for instance, like during the freeze, they tend to be more cold tolerant than people give them credit for. Now, I by no means condone like keeping your house at 60 degrees for dart frogs year round, but they can survive down to
Fuck,
it
I'd
much
keep it at 60
better.
degrees for me year round if I could.
They can
Ours is set on
survive
68.
that better than like 80 plus.
Gotcha.
And plus, if your house is 80 plus, you're going to get flighted fruit flies. So
Oh yeah, there you go. See,
Keep-
Darren.
keep that in mind too.
Also, Darren, quit being one of those weird ass people with ambient room temps. It's too fucking hot. That's how I know Darren's not fat. So Paul Byfield said, would Tinks do well in a 40-gallon breeder?
Absolutely. They would do phenomenal in there. And like I said, there are certain Tinks like Azurius, the poster child blue guys. I'd still only personally keep a pair in there. And then they'll probably breed like mad crazy for you if they're happy. You can do some other ones. So like my rarest Tinks I personally have in my collection are Qatari Rivers. And I actually have a trio of those guys and they do just fine. So once again, that goes back to whatever darts you're interested in, definitely research them and find out as much as you can about them. You're always welcome to reach out to me because I work with a million different kinds and I will tell you everything you could ever want to know about it.
Paul said that are now getting an upgrade. That'll be awesome. Plus, a 40-gallon breeder allows you to do so many cool things.
Paul, you need some more snake racks, dude. You don't need to be upgrading frogs, man. Come on.
No, don't listen to Robert. Everybody needs frogs in their life.
He already has them. He has frogs.
Well, you
Yeah,
need more frogs.
He just needs more snakes now.
Yeah, he just bought more snakes and a new snake rack.
He said he has a low 40 front opener.
That's great. That's fantastic for him.
Well, it'll allow you a lot of room to do some cool landscaping stuff and planning it out and all. That'd be really great.
One thing I'll say with darts too, another common mistake I see people make is the plant selection they use. So like ferns. So many people use basic ferns like lemon buttons or autumn ferns or something. Those will eventually choke out your enclosure because their root systems get so expansive. And like I've broken down tanks that people have given to me that are just absolutely riddled. It's like a solid mat of nothing but fern roots. And so just because it's a tropical plant doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be well suited for an enclosed ecosystem.
Yeah. Well, and if you just watch ferns in general, like after they burn a place, ferns take over like crazy. Those things can grow all over.
Yep.
Plus, there's so many other cool. I love bromeliads, so like I would love bromeliads.
Oh, I'm a bromeliad whore. I always load up. I propagate so many bromeliads, so I load all my tanks up with them.
I gotta figure out whatever the hell plant is that Katie has in her crested gecko enclosure because we've taken absolute shit care of that plant. It's still in the little planter thing it came in.
When I tried to remove it from that to plant it in the tank, and there is no fucking way that's ever gonna happen. Yeah, it's like grown through the bottom of the plastic into the dirt.
The only water it's gotten is the water whenever we spray for the gecko.
That is not factual.
Oh, you actually water it?
I do. I actually take about half of that spray bottle and pour it into the plant itself about once every 2 weeks.
It's been alive for like 2 years.
I don't know why. I don't. I guess I have an app on my phone that I can scan plants.
See what it is?
I need to see what it is, but I've kept that little sucker. And I kill everything. I killed English ivy when I was in college. Okay. Like I kill every plant.
You know what? They should put you in charge of kudzu control. Start taking care of kudzu.
That'd be great.
No, then it would thrive. It'd grow even crazier.
So that's a transition into one thing that one of the articles on our Facebook page this week, and I haven't read it. I'm sorry, Travis. You know I don't read your shit. You're gonna have to tell me what it says. But the title is "It's Time to Stop Demonizing Invasive Species." The title alone makes me say "fuck you." I hate because I grew up in the South with kudzu, and I fucking hate that shit. So, and then over here in Texas, well, anywhere in the South, hogs are fucking horrible.
Yep.
So I'll demonize, and plus I also lump cats into that group, and I despise cats. So I'm going to demonize
outdoor cats, people.
Yes, outdoor cats are horrible.
Trap neuter release doesn't work.
I fucking hate that shit. I said before in here, there's a place where I go fishing in Louisiana. They caught all the cats in this little fishing town and fixed them and then fucking let them go. I'm like, you did the hardest part. You caught the fuckers.
That does nothing for them killing native wildlife, by the way.
That's great. Their offspring will kill them, but that's fine. The next 5 cats that get dropped off there, they'll breed. And
yep.
Oh, Travis posted this one. I did listen to this episode. This was on the Snake Talk podcast. They had let me get his name right. Dr. Steve Reichling of the Memphis Zoo, who's part of the Louisiana Pine Snake program. I listened to that whole episode because I have Louisiana pine snakes, and they're the rarest snake in North America. And it was interesting to hear him talk about it and hear the timeline of pine snakes. And then when I worked at the zoo, I remember that timeline. Like at one point, they took all the pine snakes away from all the zoos and put them in 4. And I was one of the zoos where they took them away from. I remember losing our pine snakes. So I slightly don't like him. But I may end up having him on the podcast just because I simply want to ask him pine snake questions. I was trying to see what else was on our thing. Oh, so I know I talked about before that I was in the Snakes and the Fat Man 15 minutes.
We are
contest.
not, James.
I'm
no.
Because of cheating.
You are a hot mess.
You shush. Because of cheating, it got canceled early, and they just gave the win
Oh my God.
to Antoine.
Now everyone knows that's bullshit.
Oh,
I agree, it's
Jesus.
bullshit. Antoine shit, and they just got the win. What the fuck?
The only people that voted for you were your friends who actually know you.
Fuck y'all. So Antoine, just saying, he's not my champion. I'm just saying he's not mine. He's not my winner. Hashtag not my winner.
Oh my God, James.
But he will be on next week for me to yell at him in person. Ish.
That was my idea, by the way.
So he'll be on next week.
I was like, we should have him on our podcast. You were like, yes, we should. And within like 30 seconds, I think he agreed to do it.
Yep. I can yell at Antoine. Because I can yell at it. I mean,
Oh.
he's ex-military and he's bigger than me, but I can yell at him over the computer because he can't reach me from here. Gina, did anybody see the $900 spider pillow that Gina posted over on her?
That
I did.
is insane.
And then did anybody see Brittany Patchett's response to it?
No.
the furry response.
Yeah, apparently somebody in a spider
yeah.
group, so they wanted to cut a slit in the back of it to live out their furry dreams with this giant spider.
Oh, that's terrifying.
We all know it was Brittany.
I said it was Brittany. I right away said when she said somebody, she meant herself. That was bullshit. I was trying to think what else. Oh, you like this one? Travis posted this one just a little bit ago. So it's a tweet. He said, "Watch out, y'all! Cucumber copperheads and ricey pythons." Because it says, the tweet says, "Today's lesson: if you're walking in an undeveloped or forested area and you suddenly smell the aroma of something like cooked rice, you are within 15 meters of a python or a python nest."
15 meters exactly. Huh?
Exactly. Within at 16 meters, you don't smell them. But so now you can have cucumber rice. Just get those with your copperheads mixed together and have some cucumber rice. Fucking people. Oh, so going back to we're talking about earlier with
Lily Rennick.
Yeah. So Ben Rennick's ex-wife, because he's not dead, because the bitch murdered him. Her murder trial is finally happening, and hopefully they fry the bitch.
Tell us how you really feel, James.
She shot him in the back. Well, no. She wanted her boyfriend to shoot him in the back of the head. He did not. So she did it. And she took so much money from the damn hobby as the victim for so long until they realized, oh, the bitch shot him in the back of the head. So I hope they fry the bitch. I mean, I hate it because I think do they have kids? She has several kids.
I think so.
So
they're not going to give her the death penalty.
No, wish they would though. You shoot somebody in the back of the head, that's premeditated murder. You don't deserve to be on Earth.
Yep.
Anybody that disagrees with me, suck it. That won't be the first thing you disagree with me about. I listened to the Reptile Entrepreneur podcast. That was pretty good this week. I said this week. I'm still like 20 episodes behind. So I'm sure that there's a recent one where it's selling stuff on Etsy, which you have experience, I guess, with that, or at least being on Etsy. I have no idea with all your signs and everything. But he also had monetizing your podcast or your YouTube channel. And he had the guy from Animals at Home podcast on there. And they went through the different routes of being able to monetize your stuff through either selling merchandise, which we are doing soon. As soon as I can get off my ass and get it all set up, we will do that. Also he has a thing through Google ad. No, through Amazon. The clicks, I think, is like through his videos, they click and he gets money that way. Then there's also Patreon, which again, we have a Patreon. If you want to go, just give us like $2 a month just to help us pay for one new microphone arms that don't do this. That's the spring on these things. They are loud. So we want to replace those. Some new cameras. We got some other cameras. We're just, if you want to give us $2 or $3 a month, have at it. Patreon. But that was an interesting episode. And then I was currently listening to the one with Josh's Frogs. That was the one that on there now. Starting a small business was the theme there. So, but I like that podcast.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Not right now. It is horrible.
Worst time ever.
Yeah.
And then I listened. Oh, this is really interesting. I listened to Reptile Fight Club, two episodes ago, I think, or maybe it was last episode, and they talked about is the ability to breed an animal the sign of success, basically. Is that your number one sign of success? The fact that you get it to breed. And it's very interesting hearing both sides. You know, I would say that it's a sign of success, like they said on there, but you've seen the fuckers that can breed ball pythons. I'm not going to say they're super successful at taking care of animals.
Let's not be so brutal.
You can breed the fuckers in a cardboard box in the closet.
I would say it depends on the species.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you were talking about the dart frogs. If you were to sell a full setup and a species of those dart frogs that breed like rabbits, and someone were to produce dart frogs from that, that doesn't mean they were a giant success at keeping dart frogs, right?
Yep.
Just means that they were given the right thing and it happened. Now, one thing they said, if you can do it year after year, then yes, that would probably show that you're having some success at keeping them.
If you could breed Bolin's pythons, you're probably pretty fucking good.
Well, yeah, no, I think there's one dude that has kind of in Europe that kind of like lucked into it and got a clutch. I may be way up, but I'm pretty sure that happened. But if you could do it year after year, if anybody ever is able to finally breed Bolins year after year, then 100%. But it was breeding as a benchmark. So the benchmark of being a good keeper, because that's always kind of in the hobby. It's always been, well, if you can breed it, then that means they're happy. That means that your animals are good, healthy, because they can reproduce. But we know some of these animals they just naturally, it's ingrained. Millions of years of evolution has made them so that they fucking make babies, and they're really good at it. Or the folks that get imports of a pregnant animal over here that lays eggs, and they go, "Look what I did." I'm like, well, you didn't do shit. You grab its snake. So that was an interesting episode to listen to, because I know that for a long time that was kind of in the hobby. If you could reproduce it, you're keeping them right, which is probably not 100% correct. So, I'm trying to think if I watched anything else. I watched some YouTube stuff. Oh, I watched Ed and Emily. Anybody that's ever thought about keeping an alligator, you'll like this, okay? Ed and Emily just did an episode where they finally broke down the room where they were housing their alligator before they moved it to the new zoo.
Mm-hmm.
If you've ever thought about keeping an alligator inside, just watch that video, and then don't do it. It was just gross. There was mold all over the wall from where water got onto the wall, and they had to repaint.
Nasty.
They had to replace all the carpet, and it was a huge mess. So, but I'm amazed at how many people up north have alligators.
Yeah.
Like it's a thing up there.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Bradley said everybody up there has them.
It's fucking crazy. Like, we live in a place where you could do it right if you had them outside, and we don't have them. And they're up there just keeping them in a spare bedroom. Like, look at my alligator. Like it's a leopard gecko. Just insane. So that's all I got. You got anything else, Katie?
I don't.
Roberto?
Nope.
I haven't. I'm going to try my New Year's resolution. And I'm really jumping the gun here. So I'm one of those people that I don't make resolutions to like cut things out of my life, because let's just be real, that's just no fun.
I've cut people out of my life. Does that count?
But I do try to do one thing that will make my life better in the long run. And you were listening to a podcast in the car. I made you rewind it so that I could write this quote down.
I think it was the Reptile Entrepreneur podcast.
And it says, I don't even remember what they were talking about, but it was, if it's an investment in your quality of life, then pursue it. And that really resonated with me, because, and you and I talked about this the other night on a personal level, I don't do things for me.
Yeah.
Ever. I do things for you.
That's your own fault.
I do things for our child. I do things for other people and my students. I don't do things for me. And so one of the things that I want to do for me is to listen to more podcasts about stuff like this, and to learn more about the reptiles and amphibians that I do enjoy and like I want to make it more for me, not because I have to have stuff to talk about because I'm on podcast.
It'd be beneficial though.
It would be beneficial. I mean, so in my mind, I want this to be like, an investment in my personal well-being, but I'm a multitasker. What can I say?
Kind of.
Shut up.
You're a half tasker.
Boy, I will throw my shoe at your head.
You only wear flip-flops. We're good.
Please don't miss. I'm right here.
It's a big old size 12 shoe. I ain't gonna miss.
Oh, I did want to talk about a new pod. So I talked about the fact there was a new podcast coming out. I will be doing a new podcast with Travis Wyman and Jason Miloradovich starting relatively soon. We'll be recording our first couple podcast episodes. It is going to be called the Pint-Sized Reptiles podcast, or Pint-Sized Reptiles podcast. It's all small, like snakes, small lizards, small torsos, snakes under 3 foot. Lizards smaller than a leopard gecko. Your smaller species of tortoises that could live inside of a house and not have to take up an entire yard. We'll do episodes that are based on a certain species. Our first episode will kind of be an intro episode, but the second episode will be on rubber boas because the 3 of us keep rubber boas and it's not an overly common snake in the hobby. And we'll kind of go into the through the natural history of them and then into the hobby side of them. And we'll do that with a lot of this. We'll do dart frogs at some point. We had talked about doing dart frogs. We also talked about doing glass frogs at some point, which will be interesting.
Ooh, glass frogs. My buddy Zach Goodnow with Equatorial Ecosystems is vending his first herp show in Slidell this weekend. He's your glass frog guy.
Cool.
He works with several species of glass frogs, and I will.
Didn't even know there were several species of glass frogs.
From him. Yeah, he works with, I think, 5 currently different species of glass frogs.
Yeah, I made Travis be on the podcast with me because I needed somebody who would actually do the research and figure out shit. It wasn't going to be me.
This is true.
I just have the equipment. So I get Jason, who has years of experience, and Travis, who has a PhD, and then I can just chime in with stupid shit every now and then.
You have the equipment.
Exactly. I'm here. I'm the equipment guy.
And by equipment, I mean all the technical stuff that's sitting on our table.
Sure, that's what you meant.
Button makes this in.
And then starting at the beginning of the year,
no, nothing on you, Audrey, at all.
And then starting at the beginning of the year, we will have the In Blue podcast, which I'm looking forward to that one. We'll be recording some episodes for that one soon. So that's what I had to say. I'm done. I'm finished, I think.
Sure you don't want to bring up another subject then?
So what I was thinking the other day,
I'm just gonna get up and go cook dinner in a minute because I haven't eaten yet.
Audrey, is there anything you'd like to say before we go?
I'm good. I could talk people's ear off all day about dart frogs, but I won't bore y'all to tears. So
I'm really glad that you found your dogs. Number 1, because you found them, and that's important.
Thank you.
But number 2, because I learned a lot about frogs tonight.
Yeah, I did too.
Now I want dart frogs.
Yeah.
I'm feeding up the Tinks for them. We're getting dart frogs, and we're going to design some amazing dart frog rack setup that makes taking care of several Tinks at one time.
We'll add it to your list.
All right, Audrey, if they want to get a hold of you and ask you tons of dart frog questions, or if they want to watch your YouTube channel, what are all the ways in which they can do that?
Sure. So I'm most active on my business Instagram now. It's still relatively new. Like I said, just started this full time in July, but my handle there is Urban Amphibia. And then my YouTube channel is Audrey's Urban Exotics. Because my main focus is still going to be amphibians, but I have a passion for everything. So I just want to cover exotics in general because I feel like they're lacking in care a lot of times.
I watched your episode on how turtles are horrible pets.
Yep.
That was a good episode and 100% true.
Yep.
Aquatic turtles are horrible pets.
My sister is rehoming her 13-year-old red-eared slider just because it's been at her in-laws' house for about 6 or 7 years. And they just bought a house. They also have 3 kids and 4 kids. And they just decided that they just don't have room for her.
Is it big?
Yeah, she's like this.
Oh, it's a full-grown female.
Nice.
Oh my god, that's hard to rehome.
But she's got her in a 75-gallon tank, but she's got like the fluval that moves the water.
And she's the only turtle in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, my sister's one of those that.
I liked the setup where she in her video, Audrey's video, where they had the outdoor pond and then they used pavers to kind of build a wall around the area, so it kind of kept them all in that little area, and it was outside, so you didn't really have to deal much with it.
I offered to take it to Russell, but she didn't want her to be in a big pond outside. So
where turtles are supposed to be.
right.
It's her baby.
I get it, but
her name's Miss Bowser. They thought she was a male, and they named her Bowser. And then when she got older and they realized she's a female, she's just now Miss Bowser.
She realized the fingernails didn't grow when she got massive. That was a female.
Cute.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyways, so yes, they can check out your YouTube channel, and then Urban Amphibia on, I know, Facebook, on all the socials, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
I know it's on Instagram because I tagged you on Instagram today.
Yes,
I know
sir.
Robert, if they want to get a hold of you, because now you have a ton of PVC and you can fulfill orders as they come in.
www.lsreptileracks.com.
Yeah, don't be making fucking promises for me, please.
Just trying to strum up some business.
Soon, but not yet. I'm going to have some racks here very shortly that will be quick ship items. No tubs. You have to order your own tub, flat pack. we'll get them shipped out within a week. That's probably not going to happen until the first year. I was hoping to be able to do it for Christmas, but I just don't see it happening. I got too many orders to get caught up on.
Still shorter turnaround than some other places.
Yeah. And I was just looking at some prices of some other guys. Some of my shit's like half their price.
Your stuff is out.
And I'm like, how do you charge that? Like, what kind of overhead must you have? But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
If you want to get a hold of us, for me, it is simply_serpents on Instagram or simply serpents on Facebook or the Reptile Gumbo podcast on Facebook, Instagram. That's all I got. Thank you, Audrey, for being here. Thank you, everybody. Oh, wait, Chris Eaton. We're not answering. Chris Eaton will have a live Christmas episode on the 15th of Snakes and the Fat Man. So just everybody look out for that. I'm going to be on there, which is the only reason I think it's important. The rest of the episode,
It's live or it's...
I don't know. It's recording it. It may not be live.
I think it's a Christmas episode because it's coming out on Christmas.
It'll be on Christmas. But anyways, look for that one because it'll have me, which is the most important part. I mean, I think Bilka's in it, but whatever. The most important part's I'm in it.
Audrey, stick around for a minute for us.
Will do.
All right. Bye, everybody. Oh, everybody can hear me try to figure this out. My mouse quit working halfway through this. I think the battery died.